Defense Secretary Jim Mattis making his first trip to China this morning to continue key discussions into North Korea's denuclearization.
Alongside the People's Republic of China and Japan, the United States and the Republic of Korea have a common goal. That's the complete, irreversible, and verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And this will include our agreed-upon reduction to larger-scale exercises.
His trip comes amid reports that the U.S. is preparing, quote, specific asks in a timeline that will be presented to North Korean officials. Joining me now, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, former Florida Congressman Allen West. Colonel West, always a pleasure to see you. The U.S. hopes this timeline is going to reveal Pyongyang's level of commitment to denuclearization. What do you make of it?
Yes, and pleasure to be with you, Dagan. Without a doubt, you have to have conditions and measures of effectiveness, and they have to be tied to a very strict timeline. This has to be something that occurs within the next year and a half, maybe at the most 2 years, because the longer North Korea and China tries to push this out, that shows that they are not committed to a seriousness or a level of seriousness that we need to see, and we need to be able to get on the ground there in North Korea and verify all of these different conditions being met.
Colonel, how long do you think that could possibly take?
Well, I think that we should be driving that timeline, and as I said, it should not be past a year and a half, and there should be some very specific measures to include some of the human rights conditions that should be there, the release of Japanese hostages, the shutting down of these work camps that we see there in North Korea, and also the repatriation of the remains of our service members from the Korean conflict, Korean War.
Colonel West, reports out of North Korea reveal that the government has erased most of its anti-U.S. propaganda following Kim Jong-un's summit with President Trump. State propaganda playing a huge role in North Koreans' perspective of the outside world. It might seem small, but is this a big move for North Korea to try and develop a relationship with our country?
No, this is incredibly huge. In 1995, I was stationed with the 2nd Infantry Division over there in Korea along the DMZ, and the propaganda messaging, the fake village, the Kaesong City village, and all of the things that part of the brainwashing of people in North Korea. This is a huge thing to turn this around, because this is how you have kept an entire nation of people subservient and subjugated because of this false narrative that's been promulgated.
This is John Hilsenrath. What do you make of the argument that the U.S. gave up, these military exercises with South Korea and didn't get anything in return in this first round of talks with the North Korean leader? Is that a fair argument that we didn't get enough after giving up something important to the South Koreans and us?
Well, it's good to hear from you, John, and I will tell you that's probably the biggest point of disagreement that I have with President Trump. You know, when you talk about reducing or suspending our military exercises, that's not North Korea talking, that's China talking. And when you look at the incredible belligerence and the aggression of the Chinese in the South China Sea, the fact that they have placed anti-ship missiles and surface-to-air missiles on these constructed man-made islands there, and you know their one belt, one road strategy, we should not be talking about canceling our military exercises, because that's an important part of our readiness. And the credibility of your foreign policy has to be backed by a strong military deterrent.
Congressman West, this is Richard Fowler here. So I think that's a good point, right? That, maybe in these talks with, and I agree that I was happy the president sat down with Kim Jong-un, but do you think that we could have gotten more in that statement? There was just a statement. It seemed to be, there was no clear timelines, no clear sort of, here's what's going to happen in the future. If we were sitting down with the North Koreans, do you think the president could have gotten more as far as didn't think that we gave up so much? We gave up military exercises and we didn't get much in return.
Well, it's good to be with you, Richard, and I think we had a thing in the military called crawl, walk, and run. A journey starts with the first step. You're not going to take off running, and it was important to break this ice, but my biggest point of contention was the suspension of those military exercises, which we can reinstate at the drop of the dime. But again, I think that was more so China talking than North Korea talking, because China wants to have a regional hegemonic dominance there in the Pacific Rim.
Well, to that point, I'll note that the next set of military exercises between the U.S. and South Korea are taking place next spring. So there is time to reinstate those military exercises if negotiations with North Korea don't go as wanted, if you will. But, Colonel, talk about, again, because you talk about China's desire to basically control that part of Asia. How important is it that we stay tough on trade with China? And what are the implications there? Because, again, money equals power, and money equals a strong military.
No, you're absolutely right. And if you understand that right before the North Korea summit that we had, China held a Shanghai summit, and they invited Iran to be there as well as Russia. And then also, if you look at the Chinese-Pakistan economic corridor, China is looking to build a naval base, a naval facility in Pakistan. So they're trying to push us out of Afghanistan. That's one of the, hidden stories out there that's not getting a lot of publicity. This is the One Belt, One Road strategic initiative of China is something we need to be very concerned about. So I think that it is important that we keep that pressure on China, because China is really the great benefactor of North Korea, and North Korea needs to be isolated from China.
And it was Kim Jong-un, after our summit, he's already met with Xi Jinping, but there were plans for him to meet with Bashar al-Assad in Syria, and also meet with Vladimir Putin of Russia. So again, those are not U.S. allies; those are allies of China and Russia.
No, you're absolutely right. There is a new axis that is forming between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. And remember that if you want to talk about collusion, the nuclear weapons technology and ballistic missiles technology, that sharing between Iran and North Korea has been proven.